We are constantly told that the world's financial system is a miracle of stability, a self-correcting machine that guarantees endless prosperity. We believe that economic crashes are random, unpredictable accidents, unfortunate but temporary fevers in the global economy. This is the greatest and most dangerous deception ever sold to the public. The truth is darker, more calculated, and far more terrifying. Right now, the world's colossal debt structure stands at over $300 trillion. This system doesn't just tolerate instability, it is meticulously engineered to require it. This is not just a story about debt. This is the dark financial secret of the 21st century. How the global financial structure operates as a self-resetting machine that uses devastating economic collapse as its primary tool to erase its own obligations and systematically transfer wealth from the masses to the elite. The crash you fear is not random, it is a scheduled event necessary for the survival of the machine itself. To grasp this terrifying paradox, we must first recognize the scale. $300 trillion? It's a number that defies comprehension. Yet it is the unbreakable, invisible chain linking every country, every bank, every corporation, and every single working person on Earth. This is the new foundation of our reality. For the modern era, money was constrained by tangible assets, primarily gold. This gold standard was a prison for debt. It meant governments could only spend what they physically possessed or could realistically borrow. But wars were expensive. Grand projects were expensive. And politicians always demanded more power. The machine's original blueprint was drawn in the early 20th century with the formation of modern central banks, such as the U.S. Federal Reserve in 1913. These institutions were publicly presented as stabilizers, designed to prevent panics. But they're hidden. World-altering power was the authority to act as the lender of last resort, providing a safety net that implicitly guaranteed that no major financial institution would ever truly fail. This was the intellectual beginning of too big to fail. The architects of the machine ensured that risk would always be socialized, while profits remained private. The machine's final, catastrophic upgrade came in 1971 under President Nixon. By formally severing the last link between the US dollar and gold, the global financial system was completely untethered. This was not merely an economic footnote. It was the moment money transformed entirely. It ceased being a commodity and became pure fiat currency, backed only by your government's legal authority to tax you and critically its unlimited capacity to create more of itself out of nothing. This historic act unleashed the age of endless exponential debt expansion, transforming the global economy into a gigantic perpetual motion machine fueled by promises. Once untethered, the machine found its primary fuel source, fractional reserve banking. This mechanism is the financial multiplication trick at the heart of the paradox. When you deposit money, the bank is legally required to hold only a fraction of it, loaning the rest out immediately. When that loaned money is deposited by another party, the process repeats, generating new credit, new money, and new debt in a dizzying, accelerating spiral. This credit expansion is precisely what fuels asset bubbles, stock market rallies, and the appearance of ceaseless economic growth. It feels like prosperity, but every new dollar created this way is an IOU, a debt bomb ticking under the global economy. The machine's most effective, subtle output is inflation. When central banks create money faster than the real economy's output can absorb, the purchasing power of every existing dollar is intentionally diluted. This is not an operational failure. It's a necessary strategic mechanism. Inflation acts as the invisible tax used to slowly decrease the real value of the government's own colossal debt obligations. It's the silent method by which the machine pays its bills by secretly transferring wealth from savers, fixed income earners, and the working class whose wages can't keep pace with rising prices. The system is fundamentally designed to reward large debtors like governments and giant corporations and relentlessly punish patient savers. But this debt-fueled growth is inherently unsustainable. An ever-expanding system of promises must eventually hit a critical mass where interest payments alone exceed the capacity of the underlying economy to produce real value. When the total debt is too large to be repaid, the machine enters its crucial reset phase. This is the moment the periodic chaos you witness on the news is revealed as a calculated necessity. The machine needs a crash to survive. because the only alternative is political and economic stagnation, which would reveal the true failure of the system. Let us examine two terrifying historical blueprints for this mandatory reset. Proving the crash is part of the design. Blueprint 1. The Annihilation Reset. The Weimar Template, the Weimar Republic in 1920s. Germany provides the machine's most extreme test case for debt annihilation. Burdened by impossible war reparations and domestic costs, the government chose the path of least resistance: uncontrolled, reckless money printing. The resulting hyperinflation became so severe that at its peak, $1 was worth over 4 trillion marks. This was not merely economic incompetence, it was a profound strategic act of deleveraging. The state effectively annihilated its own massive domestic debt and vaporized the entire middle class's life savings. It was a complete financial reset, clearing the balance sheet, but it left behind a panicked, destitute society, creating the fertile, chaotic ground necessary for the rise of the most destructive political force in modern history. The machine achieved a clean debt slate, but the cost was the nation's entire societal structure. Blueprint 2. The Socialized Reset, the 2008 model, the 2008 global financial crisis, provides the modern, machine's playbook, a far more controlled, yet equally destructive form of deleveraging. The crisis was the predictable outcome of decades of credit expansion and deregulation, fueled by the machine's insatiable need for leverage. When the system froze, central banks invoked the too big to fail doctrine. Instead of allowing the liquidation of toxic debt, which would have punished the financial elite, they engineered a colossal bailout, injecting trillions in new money through quantitative easing. The debt didn't vanish, it was socialized. It was transferred from the private banks who took the high risk to the public taxpayers, who were then forced to absorb the loss through subsequent inflation and a devalued future. The crash was a controlled demolition used to preserve the architecture of the machine while forcing the general public to foot the bill and restarting the debt cycle at a higher level. Today, the $300 trillion figure signifies that we are past the point of being able to repay this debt through organic growth or manageable taxation. The machine is running out of road. Every major government is trapped in the same loop. They cannot raise taxes high enough, and they cannot cut spending without risking immediate political chaos. The only solution left is to let the machine run until the next inevitable reset is triggered. The crisis will involve a colossal wave of central bank intervention, forcing the rapid devaluation of currency and the mass transfer of wealth. Wealth doesn't disappear during these resets, it consolidates, flows from the many holding paper assets to the few holding tangible. Limited assets, those who are positioned for the destruction phase. The machine's ultimate goal is not stability, but the systematic, periodic concentration of power and capital. The debt machine is an engine of control and consolidation. It operates in plain sight, funded by our trust and our labor. But by understanding its dark paradox, you stop being a victim and become an informed survivor. Here are the 3 critical takeaways to protect yourself from the scheduled resets of the debt machine. Debt is the ultimate weapon. Systemic debt is a political liability that will eventually be resolved by pushing the cost onto the consumer through crisis or inflation. Recognize that high government and corporate debt will inevitably result in the dilution of your own wealth. Your primary defense is to minimize your personal debt exposure to fortify yourself against this financial weapon. Crashes are the system's immune response. Stop viewing financial crises as random, unfortunate events. See them as the predictable, necessary failure mechanism of a system overloaded with unpayable obligations. Use the calm periods between these resets to liquidate unnecessary risk and fortify your position. Hedge against the reset. In a world where money can be printed infinitely, your security lies in assets that cannot be. Shift your focus from paper promises, cash savings, bonds to tangible, limited assets that hold real value when the machine enters its destruction phase. Diversify away from pure fiat promises. The debt machine is integral to how our modern world operates. But by understanding its dark paradox, its reliance on periodic crashes to survive, you stop being a participant in the scam and become an informed survivor. The machine needs a crash. The only question left is, will you be ready when the countdown hits 0? If this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of our financial world resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe right now, and hit the bell. Don't miss our next video where we expose another major financial reset, Rome's money collapse, how the ancients erased wealth. Let us know in the comments, what tangible asset are you using to protect yourself from the next scheduled crash? Stay curious, stay informed.